You thought we weren't going to talk about the Fantastic Four the moment we left the theater. Think again, everybody. This is the Sacred Rewatch. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Sacred Rewatch, the Illuminati Takeover. We have just saw the Fantastic Four, and we've got thoughts, big ones, maybe some confused ones out there, and a lot of emotions. It's going to be a deep dive, basically just our raw take. We're not going to have crazy analysis here. We're just going to be telling you guys all of our emotions. But I do want to put it out there. There is a spoiler warning. We're not holding anything back today. If you haven't seen the movie yet, now's your chance to go. If you're seeing this on the East Coast, probably too late. Go see it tomorrow. But if it's the West Coast, they may still have stuff going on. I don't know. I'm not the movie theater manager. But if you're new here, the Sacred Rewatch is our ongoing journey through every Marvel project in release order, all the way from Captain America to Avengers Secret Wars. In 2027, I know Wyatt and Brody are along for the ride. Each week we break down 1 to 2 titles, maybe 3 titles. We've done it all. We talk about everything MCU. But tonight, guys, tonight is a moment I have been waiting for a long, long time. It's all about Marvel's first family. If you have any thoughts while we're talking, jump into the chat. I think we've got a whopping 3 people on right now. We appreciate you guys. Share your reactions, and let's process this thing together. Today, I am joined by Wyatt.
What's going on, everybody?
And our resident philosopher, Brody. Welcome.
What's going on, everybody?
Don't talk about the movie. How are you guys feeling right now?
Well, I know what we're really here to talk about. You know what
Pretty good. Feel pretty good.
Superman? Is that what we're talking about? I know Wyatt wants to talk about Superman, but
We're
not
talking about that Avatar 3 trailer.
Dude, I would love
Did you see
to talk
that?
about Superman.
I did.
Dude, they played the music from the ride. I don't even care about those movies, but they played the music from the ride, and I was like, I was excited. I was like, maybe I am an Avatar fan.
I was waiting for a Five Nights at Freddy's one the whole time.
Same. I wanted that one to play so bad. That trailer was so good.
All right, guys. I've got so many emotions. I can't even describe how I'm feeling right now. Does anybody want to say a specific word? This is spoiler heavy, so you can say whatever you want. If somebody's feeling some type of way right now, say it.
Ends with a C. Fantastic. It's fantastic. Dude, I'm so happy right now. Like, I wasn't even super duper hyped for this movie, but I watched some of the cartoons beforehand. You know what I mean? I played a little bit of Lego Marvel Superheroes because that was probably my first personal introduction to the Fantastic Four when the dude's turning into like a teacup and stuff. But I loved this movie.
Wyatt, can I ask you a question?
Of course you can. That's why we're here.
Were you hoping this happened?
I actually, okay, when they said Future Foundation, I did kind of set up like, oh, that's early, I guess. You know, I didn't think we get a Future Foundation reference in the very first Fantastic Four like appearance, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So, I personally saw this guy about an hour ago.
What?
This is at your fan event?
Yes, it was at the fan event that I went to.
That's hilarious.
And I got
That's a sick costume.
a couple compliments on my shirt.
That's cool.
I do like the shirt.
It's very nice.
All right, guys. This, I'm at a loss for words, really.
Yeah.
It exceeded every expectation I had, and I held this movie to pretty high standards. I know why it's upset, but I'm thinking right now,
I'm not upset.
out of the movie theater, this is a top 5 MCU movie for me.
This is a
Dude,
what?
knocking that off. Okay, I don't think it's the top 5 MCU movie.
Really? I would go
It
even
was
further.
good.
I'd go top 3.
And I think,
You didn't say top 3?
For me.
And-
My personal favorite.
and something else I want to say, the first 10 minutes of this movie is probably the best 10 minutes of the beginning of a movie, of a MCU movie we've ever seen. My opinion.
there was part of me that could see into the editor's room. Like the beginning is very clearly, oh, I see what they cut down. Like that part
Yes,
was a little
well,
jarring to me. Like it
and
was good
especially-
overall.
Mhm.
It was worth it, but it was very much like, oh, like there's the red ghost or whatever character that got cut, or like the
Yeah.
mole man stuff. It was like very clearly stuff got cut out of the beginning of the movie, which is fine, but that part just felt. It was good. It was fast paced, but
It fit the formula that I think a lot of Marvel and other superhero movies are seeing, that we don't need to see origin stories anymore. Like we don't need to see the
Mhm.
whole, we got to go to space. Oh, here comes the wave. I do wish we saw the little just a 5 minute clip of not even 5 minutes, 30-second clip of their first place where they'll get their powers. But we don't need it. The same reason like Tom Holland Spider-Man, we don't need to see the whole Uncle Ben thing. With
Yeah.
Superman that just came out a couple weeks ago, we don't need to see the whole Krypton blowing up, landing in the farm. These movies
You
do
could.
good at no backstory because we all know the story. Like we know what happens in
Yeah.
Fantastic Four, and everyone in that theater knows what happens to them.
you could hear the backstory though. You
Yeah,
can
I
hear
thought that
them
was
when they
cool.
go
I
through
did
the
think that
thing.
was cool.
And you could hear him transforming.
One
and like
thing-
I just watched the animated series, so it was like just like that.
The first thing that stuck out to me, and I don't know what made me notice this within the first 15 minutes. I think it's very, very clear what they're doing with the character of the Thing. Because I don't know if you two noticed, he doesn't get called the Thing a single time in that entire movie. He's referred to as Ben every single time, and every single person loves him. So what I think's gonna happen is once he gets to our universe, the main 616 universe, that's when people are more afraid of him, and that's when he gets
Wow.
the sort of like, because a big part of the character is he hates the way he looks. You know, John.
Right.
Everyone else gets to turn their powers off or conceal him, and he doesn't, and it's a huge part of his character. So I do think they're setting that up for when he comes to our world, where the only other strong kind of being we have like that is the Hulk, who is kind of viewed as not an evil, but very scary in our MCU. I think that's
Yeah.
what he's gonna get called. Some kid's gonna be like, "Ew, what is that? What's that thing?" And then someone's gonna be like calling him the Thing, you know?
Yeah,
Wyatt,
I think that's a good call.
very thought provoking. Before
didn't
we get a
notice
deep dive anymore, I want you guys to rank this out of 100.
Ethan,
Not
are
out,
you in the
not, out,
chat?
not out of 25, not a normal scoring system, not even out of 50. I want out of 100.
73.
Not based. Not based. Brody?
93.
I like that. I like that. Right
It had
now,
to be somewhere in the 90s.
I'm going to give it a 94. But,
I'll raise you. 90.
Wyatt.
No, I'm just kidding.
wait, let's talk about this 73. Because you said
I'm interacting with chat right now. It's kind of cool.
You said that I think immediate reaction, you gave it like a 6.7 out of 10 or something like that. Let's talk about your score.
Well, that was out of 10. You know.
Yes. Let's. What are your gripes?
I actually found it not. I think the gripes I have with the movie itself are that I think the MCU maybe hyped it up a little too much as their big golden savior of the MCU. Like they had these grandiose, expectations going into it, and I kind of felt underwhelmed in terms of the actual story itself. I think the visuals and like the narrative design was amazing. Like the world building and where it took place was great. But I think when it came to the actual story, it was somewhat cut and dry. Like I kind of you saw everything coming the way I saw it. Like everything was gonna happen was very obviously gonna happen from the start, you know. And I think in terms of the characters, like the characters were cool, but I don't know if they were necessarily fantastic. Like they weren't anything different than what I really thought, you know. Like everyone did great. Vanessa Kirby was by far, I think, the best character in that movie. I didn't expect so much
she
of
was
a
very
woman,
good.
and I think it was great. But I like Joseph Quinn as an actor, and I think he was good as Johnny Storm, but I don't think he did anything special or unique. I love Pedro Pascal as an actor, but I don't think he did anything special as Mr. Fantastic. He was fine and he was good. At the end, his acting at the end did shine. Like there was there was very good acting there at the end from him, and I like that part. But I feel like all the characters, instead of being really in depth, were all just surface level for themselves, which I get it's their first movie, but I was just expecting a little more.
Yeah, I mean, I can totally see that. I, I think I just have more questions for you. Like, what were you expecting? What were your expectations going into it that it didn't fulfill?
Give me a second to think that. It
Well,
wasn't
you
so
think
much
about
the
that?
expect. I got
Oh, okay, sorry. I thought you wanted some more time to think about it
no.
because I could finally read you my poem that I wrote.
It was more. I was waiting for that this morning. It wasn't
Sorry
so
about
much that it didn't live up to my expectations. Is I didn't know what to expect. I expected something huge, and when I got was a lot less than what I really was being led to believe. You know, I was expecting this golden savior of the MCU, and it just felt like a good MCU movie. It didn't feel nearly as special as I kind of thought. I thought it was a little rushed at times, and I think the end was a little not necessarily dragged out, but standard superhero movie ending. Like, you know, like nothing really. We all knew that Invisible Woman wasn't gonna die. We all knew that Franklin Richards was powerful, and like he was gonna be this super powerful being. I wish that he wasn't shown so much in the trailers. That would have been a lot cooler, a lot specialer to me. If things like Franklin Richards was kept under wraps until the actual movie, where she's pregnant in the movie.
Well, I
I
mean,
definitely thought it was a good movie. It was far from bad, but I also think it was far from perfect.
so would you have felt differently at the end of the movie, or even at the middle of the movie? 'Cause I kind of thought in the middle of the movie we were going to get some multiverse stuff that was going to happen. Would you have
I
been?
did too.
Did you feel like if that happened, you would have felt better about the movie?
It seems hypocritical to say that because I do bag on the MCU a lot for leaning too much into the multiverse, but a movie that kind of needed at least somewhat of a hint, because the next movie is Doomsday, and I really have no idea how that's gonna work. I'm not
Well,
not in a negative way, you know,
it
but
could be
you know,
Spider-Man.
how do you
but-
go? It could be, but right now I think it's just TV show, TV show, TV show, Doomsday, and I liked it, and I didn't necessarily need the multiverse stuff there, but with the ending of the Thunderbolts end credit scene, it's kind of all you're thinking about. Not all you're thinking about, but oftentimes you're kind of like, all right, well, what was that Thunderbolt? Like, when is that going to come into play? When's that going to come into play? And it didn't at all. There wasn't a single thing for it.
Yeah, but in my opinion, because I was also that was probably my biggest question, like especially right after Thunderbolts, like, what is going to be the lead-in? Because this was kind of my issue with Deadpool and Wolverine. It's not really an issue I had going into the movie, but I'm still kind of thinking at the end of Deadpool and Wolverine, like, how is that going to tie in? Because they made it a big deal that this is finally going to be a part of the MCU, right? And then we never really found anything out, you know?
Yeah.
And I don't think they really gave us that expectation in this. Like, I kind of kept an open mind the whole time that this was a separate universe. But going to the movie, I was kind of curious, like, what's going to happen? And to this point, we still don't really know. But
I will say,
I think. Go ahead, Brady.
they totally. I feel like that worked so well because that point where they make you believe that they're going to make the jump. Like, I feel like you're completely bought into, like, oh, yeah, they're going to do the teleportation thing. You know what I mean? That makes sense because we know it has to line up.
Mm-hmm.
So you're full on believing
Yeah,
it's going
the
to
whole
happen.
exactly what I thought was going to happen.
So that fake out when all the stuff starts blowing up worked so well because the whole audience is using their outside motivations of like, oh, this is when it's going to happen. This is when it's all going to collide. So when all the stuff starts blowing up, like, it was sick. It was a great way to play on your expectations without like disappointing you. It was like, oh, that's not how it's going to happen, but it will somehow. You know what I mean? I thought that.
I agree with you on that part, Brody. I did think because I think exactly was thinking, oh, they're gonna teleport the Earth. It's instead of teleporting it to a different place, you're gonna teleport to a different verse, and then incursion is gonna happen. But then I'm also sitting there and I'm also like, well, it's only been an hour in. Like, we're not gonna jump universes with an hour 15 left. And then I had the same kind of thought when they're doing the space travel, which I do love how it wasn't same old MCU Guardians of the Galaxy portal,
It
like
looked
where they
so
call it
cool.
in Guardians. Like, it was awesome because it was so much more grounded in quote unquote reality, which is cool because this is a whole different universe with different tech, and I think that universe building and the tech and the vibes was really very, very well done. Like all the
The
posters
vinyl
you
was
see
sick.
of the billboards with them, the vinyl was awesome, and like the Lucky Charms block with Human Torch on the back, like all the little things that show like the world building was fantastic. I thought.
And they still have ABC. They're still running all their news off of ABC. I was like, oh, I was like, I guess that makes sense. You know what I mean?
Well,
But yeah,
But I thought the space travel was super cool.
And it bending the lasers. So cool.
Before we keep going and talking about our thoughts on the Fantastic Four, I'd love to go to the chat. We've got some questions.
Oh, do we?
So this is kind of unrelated, maybe a little bit to the multiverse, but I think we should answer it real quick. Do you think Hugh Jackman should return as Wolverine or an entirely new cast? I feel like Hugh Jackman is irreplaceable, but I want to know your thoughts.
That's one of those hard things because I want to say yes, you got to keep Hugh Jackman, but I also you can't be the only, you can't keep Hugh Jackman and recast everyone else, and he is just getting old. He's getting old. And we're not going to see the MCU until, or not MCU, sorry. We're not going to see X-Men in the MCU until after Secret Wars, right? Because that's what they said about their whole rebooting the MCU thing. He'll be pushing late 40s, I think, by then. It just won't fit with the timeline, so I really don't think they're going to do it. I honestly, it's not out of the question that we don't even see a traditional X-Men. Like, we don't see a Wolverine, Cyclops, Beast, Storm, Rogue right out the gate. It could be a little more... not nuance, that's not the right word, but it could be Professor X, and like we see Jubilee and Colossus and Nightcrawler. You know, you're not gonna. Wouldn't be surprised if we don't see a Wolverine within the first X-Men adaptation. And if they do, what they could do very well is he comes from Deadpool, so it's Hugh Jackman joining that X-Men, because that would make sense with Deadpool and Wolverine. His whole thing is that he failed his X-Men, and this would be a new opportunity for him, depending on how that storyline goes.
Well, I think this is a perfect segue into previous characters that have played versions of characters. We got the old Ben Grimm from like the 2005 Fantastic Four cameo. Loved that. I also did some digging right before we got on that are you guys familiar with the lost Fantastic Four film of 1994?
So.
Never seen it.
Well, you never saw it because it never came out.
Oh, I didn't know that it was. I just knew about the show from the early whatevers.
No. This was supposed to be the first live-action rendition of the Fantastic Four, and I think they just ran out of money. They filmed it all, but they ran out of money in the editing room, so they canned it. But I was super happy to see that Fantastic Four cast got invited to the premiere, and they made a cameo in the movie. That was super cool to me.
I did see a TikTok about that, mentioning that like the original four from that would all had different cameos. It didn't point out which ones they were, but I did say that they had cameos throughout the movie.
At the premiere, where were they in the movie?
They were just like in one of the frames, like when they had a close up, I think, of Reed Richards and Sue Storm. They were like right there in the corner. I think
that's cool.
They didn't need to have it, but I think it's a cool homage, you know.
Yeah. I think another reason that movie was pulled because the show was going on at the time. And they knew if they released that at that stage with how much budget was put into it, it might give some bad reviews leaning towards the animation stuff that was already done. But the opening of this movie was like pretty much bar for bar with the first 2 episodes of the animated series from 1994 was. That's why I was saying, like, I highly recommend watching it because the whole first 2 episodes is the Fantastic Four on a stage doing an interview about how they got their powers. Like, that's the whole first 2 episodes. So that's pretty much like exactly how they introduced this here. So I thought it was super cool.
I cannot give enough credit to the first 10 minutes of the movie. I think they just did such a phenomenal job of, you know, telling you who these people are without giving a whole origin story or backstory, right, on who they were. I mean, the first 3 Fantastic Four movies that came out in 2005, 2008, and 2015. Not great.
I think so.
Right? They're not Marvel.
2015. The 2015 one's pretty bad.
It is very bad.
Rise of Silver Surfer's pretty bad too.
But you know,
but the first one's cool.
It's not like the Spider-Man issue where those early Spider-Man movies are well beloved, right? And everybody knows the backstory because they've seen it in the first 2 renditions, so they didn't need to show it again. But at the same time, even if you haven't seen the movie, you have a good idea of who the Fantastic Four are, right? They went into space.
Everyone knows them.
They got into trouble and they came down with powers. So, and just to like fulfill, because I stopped watching trailers very early on.
Oh.
This was the very first time.
I haven't. Yeah, I'm with.
I saw a very brief clip Pedro Pascal using his stretching powers as Reed Richards very briefly, but like I didn't really get to see. So when I got to see it at the beginning of the movie, I was very, very happy.
Yeah,
I
the
was
CGI
a
looked
little
amazing.
confused about the stretching on his, because there's that scene at the end that final fight where Galactus is stretching him, and Reed's supposed to be like very stretchy. He seems like he was very limited in his abilities. You know, that's kind of what I thought, at least.
Well, I feel like though my head canon around it is that if he keeps stretching, right, like he's gonna just stretch forever, then he might get in trouble. So he's kind of resisting. So maybe that's why the pain was happening. Oh, the ripping of the clothes, maybe that was just poor technology, you know, because he hasn't really been stretched to that ability.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. Let's talk about Pedro Pascal and Reed Richards. You know, before our previous podcast we did, I talked about pretty extensively my concerns about Pedro Pascal playing Reed Richards. What are your guys' thoughts? Do you think the rendition was good? Do you think Pedro Pascal made sense?
I think.
I mean, I've already
everyone in
kind of
this
spoken
cast.
about it earlier.
Oh my bad.
I just it was not bad. It was a good performance. It was fine, but I don't think he really stood out. I feel like you could have replaced him with a handful of other actors, and it wouldn't have changed too much. And I like Pedro Pascal a lot. I just don't know if this is necessarily what he's good at. You know, he doesn't do good at the kind of soft approach he was having, which is weird because the type of person he is so different. But he's good at playing those very strong roles, and I feel like he was very not so much holding back as the character, but they did make some references that Reed has that kind of like that mind that doesn't let him really live a happy life. But I feel like he could have done a little more of actual acting as a character. There could have been a little more to him. I wish we saw a little more dilemma between like knowing that it's the right thing to do to give Franklin to Galactus, but also at the same time that's his son that, like we said at the beginning, they've been trying a long time to have a kid. That was kind of just like we didn't really see it from his point of view at all. We only really saw it from Invisible Woman being so against it. I would have liked a little more depth to the Reed Richards having to deal with that. I know what the right thing to do is, but I also I know I know I can't give my own son away, you know?
Yeah, I feel like a quiet moment would have helped that a lot, because they kind of say he's already come to that conclusion. I feel like just one quiet scene of him just at the board, all the ideas on the board, and there's only one possible outcome that like he circles on the board. Just like a quiet realization moment for him to have that personally before you get that with the group. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
But I think everyone in this cast was perfect for this cast. Like everyone makes sense together as an ensemble. Everyone makes like at first when the casting got announced, it seemed very let's pick, you mean what A/B listers are like out there right now. But like I had full confidence in like Joseph Quinn and stuff. And pretty much the whole cast, but the way they blend together, you totally see that. It must have been chemistry tests and stuff that got them together as a group.
Wait, a question from the chat.
In the chat right now. I was about to read it out loud. I don't think John Krasinski would be a better Mr. Fantastic. He looks more like him, but we may get some beef over it. We may get some beef on this now. John Krasinski is not a good actor. Like, no disrespect to him, he's just he has roles he can play. He's Jim Halpert, you know. I couldn't see John Krasinski fitting in this sort of Mr. Fantastic role whatsoever. You know, I don't see him really having that sort of, because this felt like a family. Like that was very evident, and that was done so well. You could tell that all four of these characters love each other to death, and it was great. I don't see John Krasinski fitting with that whatsoever. I think he was good enough as an isolated sort of fun favorite for Mr. Fantastic, but I really don't see him having the range Pedro Pascal could bring, especially in upcoming movies, and I don't see him really meshing well with the group, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, like, so I want to talk about my worries about Pedro Pascal before the movie. You know, I think coming out of this, the one thing that really stuck out to me, especially at the very end of the movie when Sue Storm died, right, and she came back, Pedro Pascal did a phenomenal job, in my opinion, of really playing into that emotion. Maybe something I'm not super accustomed to as Reed Richards, but we haven't seen a bunch of really like true in-depth renditions of Reed Richards, right? We've had 3 movies, but even then, like, it's a team movie, so we're not able to really get a deep dive into every character as much as we want.
Yeah.
So, and he did a phenomenal job of playing into that emotion, and basically that is the definition of acting. So in my opinion, he did a fantastic job.
I loved that scene.
No, I think his acting was definitely great, especially at the end.
Well, the thing about that ending scene that I love is he doesn't have any technology. Like, he's like fully brought down to, he's trying to do CPR, and the scene goes on for longer than you think it would. No matter what you think about what the outcome, if you know what the outcome's going to be or not, the scene dragged out for a little bit, just enough to like make you like a little nervous or cautious.
Mm-hmm.
But it was just amazing to bring a character that's so surrounded by tech and preparation. Like, he's fully destroyed in that moment. You know what I mean?
Well,
and just
yeah,
having
there
to be,
was
like,
there was a
stuck like
brief there was a brief couple of seconds where I'm like, is she dead?
well,
I was like,
that's
is she?
what,
Well,
I was like,
like,
she's not
yeah.
gonna be dead. I was like, there's no way she's dead. You're not gonna kill your one woman in the main movie. But I was also like, shit, maybe. I was like, heck, maybe she's dead. Like, maybe she is dead.
Right.
let's give credit to the movie when it's apparent. They did the whole chair layout for Marvel, right? And the second chair was Vanessa Kirby. And for like you said, for a couple seconds,
yeah,
you
I
thought,
forgot about
wait,
that.
did they just throw a curveball? No way.
Right.
But we all thought
I don't
it, right?
know.
For a couple seconds, we thought,
Is
oh
what
man,
what
they
is
really do
Franklin
this.
Richards' powers? Like, in the comics, I actually don't know too much about him. Just I know he's crazy, but I thought it was just because he's like insane, like smarter than his dad, smarter than Tony combined. In the comics, I don't know, Bruno Brody, can he like heal people to the touch like that?
I
got no idea.
I believe so.
Okay,
I mean,
I don't know. I just know he's like super powerful.
That scene
Well-
was happening, and I was like, oh, I've seen The Mandalorian. I know where this is going. I was like, this is why
Force
Pedro
healer.
Pascal's here. I was like, baby's going to do the magic hand thing. That's
Well,
literally, like, that's what I was thinking.
something I'll share about the theater I was in, because I was in a very nerdy movie theater, right? I probably had belonged there, right? I was with my people. But when they made that joke about Frank, I don't even know who made the joke specifically, but somebody was like, "Oh, we didn't just give birth to a cosmic god, basically, right?" That is who he is in the comics.
Yeah.
And like my whole theater like chuckled like out loud, because I think from my impression of who Franklin Richards is like that is who he is in the comics. Like, I think his character is going to be probably the most crucial to putting an end to Secret Wars. That's why he was introduced now, because you have to have him.
Yeah.
And I think that's why they gave him the nice little jump at the end credit scene for 4 years, sets him up so he's already a little older. We don't need. So now Secret Wars, he could be like 12 in Secret Wars. And he's a genius. Like they gave you that little reference when Herbie reads the book, and it's like that Charles Darwin book. He's like, no, he loves that when we read it yesterday. So he's obviously very, very smart at the age of 4.
Why you just brought up Herbie? I think this is the first time we've talked about Herbie. And this just
was
about
he saying real words?
No.
I couldn't understand what he was saying.
Matthew
there was some
Wood
phrases.
was doing the voice.
There was some phrases where I was like, nah, I hear what he's saying, and there's other phrases where I'm like, no, he's not. That's not real. He's not saying real words. I was really.
I
in the
think he's
middle
saying
for like half
words.
the movie.
I think he's saying words and it's
So
just
there's
distorted.
definitely some words.
Because that's how, like, I think BB-8 is and everything. It's just is it a vocoder? It's whatever it's just where the people talk into it, and it just comes out as like a synthetic sound that matches that pitch. But Matthew Wood was doing the voice of it, which is cool.
Who's he?
He's General Grievous. And he does all
Oh,
the sound
really?
design
Oh,
for
cool.
like Lucasfilm and everything.
Just piggybacking on Ethan's nerd theater cheering. Did you hear like the one person Brody who's trying to clap at the end?
Yeah.
It was right in front of me, so I don't know where you were sitting, but I heard they clapped like once, and then no one around them clapped, and then clapped like one more time, and then they kind of.
It was like
stopped, and I
after
was
the
like, oh,
last.
man.
It was after the last battle.
It
They
was
were like-
when we haven't even talked about it earlier yet. The Silver Surfer. It was when the Silver Surfer pushes Johnny away and then flies into Galactus.
Which
I thought the
on that
Silver
point-
Surfer was one of the best parts of this entire movie.
100%. 100%.
So in the theater,
Every time she moved into the ship was awesome. Every time when she was surfing through the lava, awesome.
the piano for
And
her
it
theme
was
music.
such a controversial character going into it. Like she was getting so much hate for being a girl, which is it's really comic. It is comic accurate.
She's just a
no, exactly.
different character.
Yeah.
No, it's exactly. And I think at the surface level, your average TikTok scroller doesn't really know that. And I think a part of the reason they picked her is so you can have Norrin Rad still on the table, you know. And the MCU's kind of done this before. Exactly. I can't think of an example, but I know they have. Now, in 7 years from now, when you have your reboot or whatever you're doing, you can still pull out Norrin Rad as your Silver Surfer that everyone knows and recognizes.
Well, right. I mean, the most simple comparison, right, is we now have 2 different versions of Captain America, and it's played flawlessly, right? So you can have the same thing with Silver Surfer.
Well, it really paid off in that scene where Johnny has her like chasing him through the city, and all the power's off, so like you just see them, and then all those recordings start playing. I like to see Johnny actually being smart. I really appreciated that. Like, I know Johnny's like not usually that character, but I liked him being like, no, you know, Reed's busy. You know what I mean? He's going to be like a father. Let me try to do something. And I really liked that he was the person that kind of heard that message personally. I also feel like they should have been playing more of the video to the people that were on the, like, in the city. Like, they have video footage from their suits. Yeah. I feel like I would have been like, no, look at this dude. He's like, how many buildings high? Like, this is a serious problem.
I know they needed to for the story of the actual movie, but if I came down from space and the guy who's going to eat my planet said, like, I wouldn't tell the entire world that if I give them my baby, it's all going to end. Like, we'll be fine, right. He'll leave. I just wouldn't say that, because then that's instantly everyone's like, oh, well, yeah, give them your kid. Right. Like, it's one person. Yeah, give him your child, we'll all be safe. Which I get from the point of view of a person. No, I get it. From the point, if it's real life, if these people came down and like, yeah, if we sacrifice our kid, the entire planet will live. I'd be like, oh well, you're gonna give them your kid, right? But I also get why they can't, and I understand the whole. They're the Fantastic Four. They're superheroes. They're gonna find a different way. But
I did love the speech though.
Wouldn't tell them.
The speech where she goes out and she explains her point. I thought it was good. I feel like the TV, they cut to like one person watching the TV, and I was like, maybe cut to like 3 people. You know what I mean? I was like, maybe show a few different reactions to her saying this. But I felt like that scene was really, really good for her.
I did the little Leonardo DiCaprio whistle when in the very like first 10 minutes it pans by the UN and the Latvian one's there and it's empty.
Oh my god!
And then it's I was like, oh! I was like, mom, that's where Dr. Doom's from. He's from there. She's like, oh, okay. And then it popped up again later, and it was just cool. I didn't think we were gonna see him, and I didn't. So I was happy with what we got, and I'm happy with the end credit scene. I think it's very obvious they didn't want to pay Robert Downey Jr. the extra money to come out, and I get that. You're probably paying him $2 billion to be in it in the first place. But there's also a chance that might not even be our Doctor Doom, which is a theory I've not running with. I see all over the place. I don't think that our Doctor Doom, the first Doctor Doom we see, is not going to be the main Doctor Doom. I think.
I don't think that's true. In my opinion.
I don't see that happening.
You think that was RDJ, Doctor Doom?
Yeah.
I think they would get so much flack for this end credit scene if it wasn't him.
And another point about this Fantastic Four specifically, like, this is, theoretically the only universe, comics or movie wise, where this Fantastic Four doesn't have a direct Doctor Doom relationship that we see on screen, right? And it only makes sense that this is the one.
Yeah.
But I mean, I had the same reaction.
I do think though.
The same reaction when they were panning. Like, you have the United States and Latveria. Like, talk about trying to play the most obvious play of all time. When that happened, I was bumping Grace right next to me. I was like, oh my god, and she's like, what? I was like, no, that's Robert Downey Jr. That is supposed to be him. Why isn't he there?
Right.
I do think. But they didn't. It's not like they could very, very much still have. The good thing about this Fantastic Four being so flushed out in their own universe is when Doctor Doom comes into play, it can be revealed that him and Reed were friends in college and they knew each other and they had that falling out so long ago that it just didn't come up because I don't know if it's just me reading into it too much, but when they're panning over the UN and Invisible Woman's talking, she does look at the Latvian seat empty and kind of acknowledges it. Like she's like knows who should be there, and it's not sad that he's not, but kind of like the way you would look at if like the way you would look at it if that person you known forever and had a huge falling out with, but is also a huge political figure, didn't show up. You would feel a little personally attacked, not attacked by, it, but a little more personal about it. And I feel like she does pause for a second and look on. And I would have liked to see one of like the portals in Latveria, you know, that would have been cool. I did for a second when they started exploding because it was kind of it was just somewhere in the map.
I totally thought it was Latveria too.
I did too. Like they turned their up. Also, a fun little thing I noticed, which was just cool, when they're doing those things with all the teleporting things, it says USSR on there. So in this universe, Russia's still communists, I guess. I thought that was a little cool.
But it is the 1960s too.
Oh yeah, that is true. I kind of forgot about that. I just know. Yeah, actually, never mind. That's stupid.
But I mean, this is a different universe.
True.
There's clearly not as much racism.
Just
in
good detail. It's just good detail.
They definitely fixed the civil rights issue a lot sooner than Earth 616 did.
That's what the foundation was for.
And also, super small Easter egg as well. Calling it Universe 828. Shout out to Jack Kirby. I thought that was super cool.
That was cool.
I actually did think Johnny. I just kind of Silver Surfer. I don't know if it's a good or bad thing, but she doesn't really show up on screen within like the last. I don't know. I'm not really good at movie times. But let's say 10-15 minutes after. Like she leaves by giving Johnny that warning, take the kid and run, and never comes back. So I did kind of forget about her. So I did for a second think Johnny was going to sacrifice himself to get Galactus away, because that does kind of fall in line with the character. It's happened to him. Like he's always, there's a very famous comic run with the Future Foundation. What kind of gave me that thought where he does close himself off in some pocket dimension and goes supernova, and he's gone. He's dead forever. Not forever, but for a chunk of time. And that's when Spider-Man comes into play. So part of me did think I was like, oh, is he really gonna like be gone in the first movie? And then I thought he would obviously have come back in Secret Wars or something, because Galactus is not gone. He's not dead. He's just gone.
Yeah. No, it fully made me believe that it could happen. Like even when it was faked out, I didn't feel like I was like shorted on that. You know what I mean? Like a scene that I compared it to.
Last Jedi move, you know.
That's exactly what I compared it to. I said The Last Jedi. Yeah. It's a very big part of like Finn's character arc that he's gonna do that. You know what I mean? He's saying, I'm fully committing to the rebellion. I'm gonna do this and destroy this thing. And solution in that is it doesn't get destroyed. It's still doing damage, and he doesn't fully commit. You know what I mean? So it's just bad for his arc. This wasn't Johnny's arc. Like, it's showing how much he cared about the kid, but you already knew that. You know what I mean? So you don't feel shorted out when it doesn't happen. You know what I mean? But and I think at the end,
it fits perfect with her character. It fits
exactly.
It's just in line with what she didn't want to. The thing about Silver Surfer, both Nora and Rad, and I'm forgetting her name. They don't. Being the Herald of Galactus is not a fun job. Yeah, you get the power cosmic, which makes you one of the most powerful beings in the galaxy with the power cosmic. But it's a very they don't. It's the whole point. It's so depressing. You're so isolated. You don't make connections because you can't. All your job is to find worlds to be destroyed.
Yeah, and I will say visually, the Silver Surfer shots in this movie are incredible. The shot where she's getting taken up and becomes the Silver Surfer and she floats off the ground was so sick. The shot of her going up after she's like all crying and stuff, and it's just her with the moon behind her. That shot was amazing. But like I said earlier, the piano music, Giacchino makes some sick music in this movie, dude. It's so good. Like I knew it was gonna be good going into it. But the music is like, of course, he's got the sad piano music that you get with all these, but like, it's just amazing, dude. He never fails with this stuff.
I mean, I don't think this has happened all that often where they release the theme of the hero or the movie before the movie comes out, and they actually released the theme a year ago. I have never been more obsessed with a theme before the movie even came out than this one.
The only one I can think of that was like that was the Batman had the main theme come out for that one, and that was also Giacchino. So I think that's why it happened.
I could talk about Michael
But
Giacchino
that theme
cooking
came
up
out.
that Batman soundtrack for a whole episode. That is
Dude.
such a good. He's amazing. Like, he is
Yeah,
so
well,
good at what he does.
And he
Amazing.
also directed Werewolf by Night, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, I think I remember
But-
vaguely.
But dude, he's just amazing.
Talking about music real quick, I have to ask Rarity about this. Did you recognize the song Nation on Wheels from Tomorrowland that played in the movie?
What?
Yes, and it was in the credits, so my theory was correct.
What?
It was like
see that.
it was playing like during a montage, and it played, and I
What
lost.
part of Tomorrowland is it from?
It's like I want to say it's like a little ballad that plays almost in Carousel of Progress.
I would know if it was Carousel of Progress.
I'll send you the
It
song.
would
and
have
you'll-
to be
you'll
somewhere
hear
else. But I did write down. This is you can't see it, but it says Tomorrowland vibes. This is Tomorrowland vibes. So maybe I just subconsciously picked up on it.
it. No, my apologies. It's from the People Mover. Listen to this. I'll try to play as
Oh.
little.
Well, that's
Alright,
been
now I gotta
closed
turn it
for 30 years, Ethan.
Not in this world.
I don't think it plays the music over there. It's
Yeah, it
playing all the
does.
different music of the rides it goes through. Does
I
it?
bet you it does. I bet you it does.
Okay. I didn't recognize it. Dude, you know what threw me off? I didn't know Natasha Lyonne was in this movie. I saw she was at the promotional. I thought she was just going because Marvel premieres have everyone there for no reason. But
Oh.
she was in the movie.
I don't know who that is. Wyatt, can you help me?
I don't know how to
The
do that.
teacher lady. The teacher lady that was talking with
Oh,
Ben
okay.
Grimm.
Okay. Is she the? I'm gonna ask
She-
something stupid. Is she the voice of Elastigirl?
No. That's Helen.
Okay,
Hunt,
she just sounded like her.
whatever name is.
For like,
Quick little shout out to the chat. I feel like I'm in the Incredible Hulk right now with Mr. Blue and Mr. Green. Simply Green, like every single time I read over, I'm like, the Incredible Hulk. Simply Green.
that's our biggest fan right there.
Reach out to me on social. We can talk. Who is Simply Green, Wyatt?
It's Jackson's brother. That's Callan.
Oh, what's up, Callan?
He's our biggest fan.
Dude, I will say, if there's no questions in chat right now, I do want to go back to this because I was going to say this earlier. When we were talking about the end credit scene, there is no proof that there is cruel intention in that scene. There is
No.
shock that he is there, but he could still
Mhm.
just
Oh,
be a
100%.
friend of the family. I feel like it's a shock for us, but I feel like they could play it out where he's not him. You know what I mean? And I was just watching, again, the animated series. The first kind of plot with Doom is he captures the Invisible Woman. You know what I mean? Like, that's like the whole plot, is like they're rescuing her. So I feel like something like that, or him with the kid, you know what I mean, could happen in Doomsday or something.
I very much think that the route of Doctor Doom isn't gonna be like mustache twirly bad guy. I do think it's gonna be similar to what we saw with Reed playing. You know, the idea of having to give up Franklin to save the universe. I think Doctor Doom is gonna be, let's say, incursion, and it's not so much that he's evil, because we see like Latveria is an established country with a spot in the UN. I gotta assume he's been there for things. You know, and they wouldn't let a mega terrorist go to those types of things. So I
Right.
do think that he is much more curious about this child, because you know how powerful Doom is. He can feel that type of thing, because he is also one of those cosmic, almost like power cosmic type of beings. So I do much think he is just kind of checking in because he's curious, and he may know them, and that's the reasoning. And I don't think he's gonna be like there for just, oh, I'm evil, I'm gonna kidnap this kid because he's powerful.
Mm-hmm.
He may already know he may already know the incursion happening. He may already know, like, oh, this bad thing's coming. This kid may help, so maybe he wants to take him for that reason. But I was so convinced that the end credit scene was gonna be Doctor Doom stealing a ship at some place, like when after the world got evacuated, and then jumping ship into the 616.
Well, I will say, with that ending scene, like, it was just great. Like, it was just not too much. You know what I mean?
I agreed.
And same with, like, the connection stuff. I feel like if they
turn
did
around and show Robert Downey Jr.
exactly, but I feel like if they did go the full, here's how we get to that universe. When we're watching this movie, like by itself, it would be lame in the future. You know what I mean, like you would have. It's like if at the end of Guardians 2, they were like, all right, let's go to Earth. You know what I mean? Like it would just take away from the story itself, I think.
It was just it was set up as
What I would
just
like to see.
good.
What I'd like to see from this cast of these cast of actors, these four are great, but they're also very, very good actors. Like Joseph Quinn, I actually don't know much about Vanessa Kirby's previous work. I know she's a good actress, but like Joseph Quinn and Pedro Pascal have very, very good range, and I would love to see it if they just save their entire world, and then the incursion happens, and after all their work to stop Galactus, they lose their world to something else, like the incursion, and then they have to jump ship to the 616, and then they have that weight, and they're kind of like, because they're very, very happy-go-lucky in this movie. The whole town is, the whole world is. They always save the day. They fight it's like they fight. I don't know if you guys ever watched the show Arrow on CW. It was a long time ago, but the Flash was in it, and there's this joke that like the Flash gives his superheroes funny nicknames, like, oh, this is Plastic Man. But in the Arrow City, his mother gets stabbed in front of him by Deathstroke. It's such a duality in the two. Like we have the Fantastic Four. With, there's Mole Man. There's the Wizard. Like they have these funny. It's so much more. It's more comics. This movie felt like a comic book. Like it did feel like you were scrolling through a comic book, which was an awesome feeling. And then they get to our world after losing an entire world they fought so hard to save. There would be this so much weight and darkness, which allows the character like Reed Richards, who's a very, very flawed human being, which is kind of like what makes him a special character. Is he has this insane intellect, this insane mind, but he's flawed with this. He tries so hard to prevent the bad things that it takes such a toll on him and everyone around him. Like Invisible Woman says in the movie. It'd be awesome to see that sort of like darkness, not darkness, but these happy, very loving characters suffer such an insane loss with actors who I think can do that very well. Pedro Pascal can play a very depressed character. Joseph Quinn is a very good actor. Like he's amazing in Gladiator too. The whole thing what I mentioned earlier is the thing. You could have the whole arc where he's not loved anymore. People find him gross, and they're scared of him.
Yeah,
I think you're right about that. Why I think that's eventually going to happen because that wasn't.
Because I noticed they never said, they didn't know, not once did it. He was called Ben. Everyone called him Ben. Even in the promotional arc, the promotional stuff, no one.
but that's just such a good idea too. Like it reminds me of like how like the Phantom Menace.
It is. It's great.
Like Star Wars again. In Phantom Menace, they don't say Obi-Wan Kenobi till like he meets Anakin. Like obviously people kind of knew in promotional, but the concept is if you're watching that movie alone, you don't put it together. You know what I mean? And that's what it reminded me of. Like once you said that, but it just shows how personal this city and their relationship is. Because like for a second in the movie, I was like, if these people told me that someone's coming to eat the world, and they're hopping on a spaceship that only fits the four of them, I would not trust that. You know what I mean? If that happened, I would be like, they're leaving us. You know what I mean? Like it's over. You know what I mean? But they really have a sense of trust with the people, and I feel like that's why they refer to him by his name. You know what I mean? You even see him talking to him on the streets. But I don't know. But,
Wyatt, you talked about this feeling like a comic book movie. We got a ton of almost deep cuts from the comics, especially in that first 10 minutes. We got Mole Man and Subterranea, and I thought that was perfectly weaved in. It was the first time we really talked about it. Is it Paul Walter Hauser?
Yes.
Yeah.
He was fantastic.
It was literally The Incredibles, dude. That opening scene, I was
cool.
like, could not be more Incredibles.
So my sister said
the
this
Incredibles
is the
are inspired by the Fantastic Four, right?
Yes, but I'm just saying, as a
Yeah.
movie, because they obviously have, it's like John Ratzenberg's character, like in the movie. I don't know. He's like another mole man.
Well, they even had the drill too. You know, they had the big drills.
Yeah.
The Underminer.
It was total. Yeah, the Underminer. That's his name.
The Incredibles. This is a little sidetrack. The Incredibles has some of the best villain names in the movies.
Completely.
The Underminer is hilarious. Bon Voyage. Bon Voyage is the best name in media. That is hilarious, and he's these are characters who are 5 minutes of the movie, if that. Like Bon Voyage has 2 minutes of screen time. The Underminer has probably less, but they're just.
Yeah.
I think it's hilarious.
I think it's no coincidence that Michael Giacchino did this music and he did Incredibles. I think he was very clearly
Also,
you're
didn't
good
think
at
about
this.
What they were going for.
Yeah. And when I was like, Michael Giacchino also did the music for Lightyear, and then they're like, what if we slingshot around the sun? And I was like, is this live action Lightyear? Is this Lightyear? Am I getting Lightyear live action? I'm a big Lightyear fan. I was very excited when that happened. I was very.
A part of me. I don't know. I thought when they got stranded, they were gonna come back, and they were too late. Like like their mission. Like they did this whole mission to get to Galactus, and then their time dilation, their ship breaks down. By the time they get back, they're too late. He's already there.
That would be sick. But like, dude.
But then again, I don't know what they would have done with the last 45 minutes of the movie.
I cannot emphasize enough how well written this movie is, and how well edited this movie is. There's so many scenes in this movie that I love that I feel like would be on the cutting room floor of any other movie. The scene of like Ben trimming his beard and then bumping into each other in the hallway in the dark, I feel like that would be on the cutting room floor, but it's in the movie. Like they have so many scenes in the house that I feel like would have been cut. Even that little like scare moment where she turns like uninvisible. But like just like each scene is just super memorable. Like when they're trying to like when Galactus makes the kid like arrive early and they're trying to shoot the Silver Surfer that's chasing them while they're making the jump and Ben's piloting. Like that scene was just amazing. It was so sick.
That scene when she's giving birth in space, I think was one of the best of the movie. I think it was really well done on like I think every part of it was great. Johnny shooting her with the gun, well, arguing with Ben about drag. Again, they did such a good job at showing how tight knit they are as a family. They kind of it's very obvious they strayed away from like the superhero. Like there really wasn't much powers in fighting. They didn't really fight anyone until Galactus showed up, which and they spent a lot of time building the characters. And I would have liked a tad bit more, not much more. Just I would have liked a little more scenes of them, not necessarily fighting, but their powers in action. But I think it does very, very, very well for their characters. Like, I don't think... It's weird that they made a whole big thing about the Thing saying clobbering time, but Johnny never actually says flame on at all throughout the entire movie, outside of the little toy.
I know, I was waiting for that.
I thought his powers were very well done. Every time he, like, would jump off the ground or leap the ledge, I thought it looked great.
Well, I loved him just casually using it for a light.
Yeah, like, when the power went out and he's walking around, like, with using the fire... I thought that was well done and great. But I would have liked a little more, like, flame on. I like at least one flame on.
At least one. Maybe they're saving that for the big movies.
When he goes supernova. Oh, I love Human Torch.
Yeah, he'll save flame on and then he'll do a Captain Marvel, fly through some stuff.
I liked Chris Evans when he did it. I think he brought much more of a kind of smug ego to the character, which I actually do like a little more. Like, I do think this Johnny could have used a little more ego to him, but I also kind of understand what they're going for with this one. Like, it's much more of a family, bigger brother. Like, he cares. Yeah. He's him when he says that line with the Thing. Like, he's very happy to be an uncle. Like, he's very invested in Reed. Like, he loves Reed. Like, Reed's his brother-in-law, his brother to him, and he's very close with Storm or Sue, which I do think Chris Evans' approach really lost. Is he was kind of more the bad guy of the group instead of just like the smug ego cool guy. So I think they could have leaned in a little more in the middle. But I do. Yeah, he didn't feel like the brother. He felt like the cool guy from next door. But I do think that this Human Torch could have had just a tad more ego to him, which I think I would have liked. So I think the character kind of needs that, and maybe it's more to come. Like, the thing about the MCU is these characters are, for better or for worse, are written to be expanded on later throughout. So I do think there's a chance that could come along, Yeah.
Okay, so this question I've been wanting to ask. This is a great segue. Let's skip past Doomsday. Skip past Secret Wars. What happens with this direct cast of the Fantastic Four? Do we see this group of Fantastic Four make another movie in Phase 7 when we get a rebooted MCU, which has been heavily rumored and pretty much confirmed at this point? Are we going to get this direct cast playing the Fantastic Four in the new universe in Phase 7?
I hope so.
These four?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
I think my biggest worry is that these actors are so big that they're only bringing them in to tie off, this multiverse saga, and then there's going to be some type of plug and play, right? Because now, I'm wondering like, well, by the time Phase 7 comes around, I'm sure Franklin's going to be, a full adult, right?
Mm-hmm.
But maybe, just maybe, hold on, maybe we get this guy. Maybe we get this rendition, bombastic Bagman.
Right.
I could see that. I think that
it depends on how much money it makes.
Also, just
like,
put it out there. I mean,
Pedro Pascal.
If this guy somehow finds our podcast, I think this is just hilarious, by the way. And I'm now noticing it now. I don't know why his shirt is so wet, but I just thought that was funny.
Pedro Pascal is in every movie.
He's in 3 movies right now.
Yeah, he's in everything right now, and he's the hot actor off the block. I get that. I do see. It kind of just depends on how committed he is to it, Like Benedict Cumberbatch, when he got cast as Doctor Strange, was a huge actor too. He was in a lot of stuff. But I just feel like I could necessarily see The Thing and like Invisible Woman being there at Secret Wars. I'm not shocked in the slightest if one of these people sacrifice himself at the end of Doomsday or Secret Wars. I feel like it kind of has to happen.
I really don't.
But they also can't.
I want to learn
because
so much
who it
more.
It's the same character they always kill in the Fantastic Four, and it's the Human Torch. I don't know why. He's the only one they like to kill, but every time a Fantastic Four member has to die, it's him.
He's an actor that is always murdered in his movies and shows.
Yeah, it's true. Didn't they just announce Mr. Fantastic is supposed to be the leader of the Avengers going forward?
Yeah, that's. I think. I mean, it seemed like it's rumored. I'm sure. I'm gonna go out and say it. I hope it's not confirmed until we get to the movie. But this makes me feel better about that, right? I mean,
it's true.
I still don't really understand why. Like
he's
I think
gonna
it's
look at everyone and be like, "You're good for this. You're good for this."
I think it's for the very reason though that I talked about earlier. Like this has to Robert Downey Jr.'s Doctor Doom has to be this universe, right? Because that's the only reason Pedro Pascal's Reed Richards should be the lead, right?
Yeah,
it has to be that connection.
Yeah,
completely.
He's not even from the universe that a majority is going to be taking place. Like he's anyone, he's the least, I don't know, the least fit to lead us. But why would anyone look up to him as a leader unless he's like, I fought this guy before. Like I know who this guy is. Like I know how to talk to him. I know how to like not necessarily, because I do think they're obviously going to have that scene where he tries to like talk him out of it instead of just fighting him right away. Because the thing that separates Doctor Doom from a lot of the MCU villains is, he's a bad guy who does a lot of bad things, but he's I don't know if plagued with knowledge is the right word, but the way Reed Richards talks about this movie about always having to, he's so afraid of the worst that can happen that he tries so hard to prevent it. Doctor Doom's the same way, but it's much more of a power hunger. He wants power. He needs power.
I feel like that's why Reed goes through that arc in this movie, because I feel like going into the next movie, that's why he's going to be able to point out that that's the wrong way of thinking.
Mm-hmm. There's always another way. You don't
exactly. Not saying that he's going to get through to him, but I think that's how it's going to happen. But like, he has to be from this universe because like, they did tell the whole world that this baby's really special. You know what I mean? This baby's probably the greatest person ever. Hopefully. You know what I mean?
I'm curious how they do his powers. Just because Doctor Doom usually gets his powers with the Fantastic Four, he's on that mission, he's on that trip. So I am kind of curious, because Doctor Doom is this perfect balance of science and genius and magic. Like, he's a wizard, he does magic.
Yeah.
And so I'm just kind of curious. I'm curious how they take that route. I'm curious what they do. It sucks that we have to wait 2 years, before we really get anything. But if they want to do it right, the first I think Secret Wars and Doomsday's gonna be like a 3-hour movie, right? It's probably gonna be Endgame length, if not 240, like 240, 230.
They said the run times, didn't they? Like the estimated run times.
Did they?
I thought the Russo brothers did. I thought it was like
your first chunk of your movie.
I thought they said the run times.
I don't think that's confirmed yet. The only thing I know about the Russo brothers, they did direct the end credit scene, just like Thunderbolts.
Yes.
The end credit scene for Fantastic Four.
Yeah, both Fantastic Four and Thunderbolts, they both directed both of those.
The mid credit scene or the end credit scene?
The
end credit scene was a little cartoon.
Was just a Disney animated.
There was a guy. No, there was a reference in there. I can't remember his name.
There was Puppet Master. Shoot. Puppet Master was in there, and he looked just like the episode from the '94 series.
That's what he was fighting.
There was him. There was also Red Ghost. And he looked exactly like the dude that was cut from the movie.
John Malkovich.
Yes, you sound exactly like this. I thought they should have just replaced him with Bill Hader from the SNL sketch, and I was like, that would have been amazing.
I sound exactly like this.
You sound
that's my favorite
exactly
SNL sketches.
like this.
It is so funny.
It's amazing.
No. You sound exactly like this. Ethan has no idea what we're talking about.
I have no clue.
Yeah, Russo brothers said the estimated runtime. I'm pretty sure this is confirmed. It was 2.5 hours for Doomsday.
Sentinel. That's his
3
name.
hours
Sentinel.
for Secret Wars. That was their aim.
So cookie cutter for Infinity War and Endgame.
Exactly. But yeah, Sentinel was in the end thing. He's like the purple robot dude, right?
Yeah, but that end one, that's... Yeah. This guy. Actually, it's a bad picture, but...
I remember him from the Laker game.
That's the dude he's punching. That's the dude he's punching in that little end thing.
Dude, and he even has the mustache. Reed has the mustache in the cartoons.
Yeah, it's a little better. It looks more accurate to the way you see him in the TV.
True.
But yeah, I don't really know who... I just know he's a character.
Okay, ready? Since you bring this up, because I did just come across this actually this morning.
Okay.
There are some speculation that Secret Wars will not technically be the last movie of this wrap up. So the rumor is right now is that we're going to have Avengers Doomsday, Avengers Secret Wars, and because there's not enough time to wrap it up all in 2 movies, there's going to be a movie called Avengers Forever.
I've never heard of that in my life.
I'm making a gross face.
Yeah, I'm not loving the way that sounded.
I don't like the name of that.
That makes me feel the same way.
It's probably a stand-in name, if anything.
Let's see. You guys keep talking. I'll do some more digging what I can find out about this.
Hey, it could be true. I just don't like it.
I think Marvel's starting to get this issue. I think Marvel's starting to get this issue where there's so much stuff before the movies come out to build hype for it, when if anything it takes away. Like, can you imagine the feeling, like, because obviously nothing's been announced too much yet, so I hope they stays that way. But if we had no idea Reboot's coming, at the end of Secret Wars, Doom or whoever destroys whatever happens, and we have one Earth out of our 2 Earths, and we have one dimension where everything's reset, that would be an insane feeling leaving the theater. It'd be like leaving the theater after Infinity War, like, did they just lose? Like, is this... Are those guys gone?
I think regardless, they're gonna keep it so tight knit. Like, we will.
I agree.
We're not gonna know like how we're gonna go up. You know?
I just hope the movies have a unique style. Like, I feel like that's what I'm most worried about. Is I don't want them to be looking at Infinity War and just being like, how do we do that again? How do we do Endgame again? Which character do we kill like Tony? You know what I mean?
Like, you can't,
like, I just
you can't do another Iron Man movie. Like, you just can't. You can't do that. It's because I think they're smart enough to know that. Like, I don't think your MCU reboot's gonna have Iron Man movie. I think what they'll probably take the approach of established universe with somewhat new characters, like Iron Man will already exist. Tony Stark will already be there, and he'll be a fully functioning character the same way as Fantastic Four worked, which I think will work for it. So I just hope they don't really... I don't want to see a Captain America origin story. I don't want to see with different actors. I want to see an interesting new take. Not a new take, but I want to see those characters interacting with characters who we don't have. Like, they should start with the X-Men, and I think they're going to do that. But, like, this issue the MCU has now is your timetables aren't necessarily lining up with the old actors you had and the new properties you've acquired. You know, you can't... Like... Tony Stark was never going to... Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man was never going to interact with the X-Men whatsoever. It just was never going to happen. Now with this whole reset, you have that new timeline where you can really line yourself up however you please. So I do hope they just kind of go that route instead of trying to show us new origin stories, you know?
I'm very against the reset idea.
I
feel like it's so. The MCU is not to the point. That's an amazing photo. That is great. I almost took a photo like that, and then I looked up at the screen at the theater, and I said, "Oh, that says F1, not F4." And then I walked in the theater because it's opening night, so they didn't change the sign yet. So I was like, "Oh, this is F1."
Brody, sorry to interrupt. I really want you to continue on this thought you have.
Oh well, like I was just saying, I'm very against the reset idea. I think it would be a complete waste. The movies aren't old enough to where I'm very worried that they saw Superman and they're like, hey, you can do it. And you can do it. But it just feels like we're not at a point that's that bad. That's like abandoned ship bad. You know what I mean?
I feel like you can reset without just calling it a reset. You can do like Captain America retired and we haven't seen him at all and it was perfect. They didn't need Tony Stark could have died and that could have been the end of it. I know it would have been a little bit maybe harder writing wise because you have so much brought in from Tony, but you can have people they're human. I know a lot of these have these crazy powers that makes it a little more complicated, but you can have Secret Wars end and you can have whoever's left like I'm done. I'm old. I've lost too much. They can retire and they just retire. And yeah, people will be mad, and people are always going to ask the question, well, what if so-and-so comes back? What if so-and-so shows up? You don't have to do it. You can have your own, you can do what you want. Like, you don't have to call it a hard reset with new actors, new characters, new roles, all that. Don't have to show up anymore.
Russo brothers?
I trust them, but they also are very focused on what is good for their story. I think we saw the remnants of some of that stuff with Guardians 3 and with Thor Love and Thunder, where it did kind of mess up the storylines of other movies. They were perfect with those characters within their movies, but it didn't exactly help the story of those characters outside of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I mean, it's not like Kevin Feige's not, right over their shoulder as they're making the stuff,
I know, and I think they're willing to make that sacrifice for the big movies. But I'm just saying it did, in my opinion, severely affect two different movies after.
Yeah, but at that point, like, the aftermath of Endgame, in my opinion, is not going to be as big as the aftermath we're going to see from Secret Wars, right? So there is a little bit more freedom to write off people you want, whether it's by killing them, whether it's retiring, whether it's going missing,
Yeah. No, like, I trust them for their movie. You know what I mean? They haven't failed with that. I'm just saying I'm a little cautious about it. In how
I just think, I don't think it's necessarily about, Brody, what you're saying about the product of the movies that they're putting out there. That's why they're feeling like they need to abandon ship. I think it's just more of a matter of, like, there's just too many characters, right? I mean, as big MCU fans as we are, we love it, right? But I think to the general public, I mean, it's still being said out there these days that, Marvel hasn't been the same since Endgame. So they're trying to fix that narrative and restart with the more core group of characters that they can focus on rather than having all these different things. I mean, we had an episode of the Sacred Rewatch where we literally spent, 2 hours talking about loopholes or storylines that they haven't touched, Yeah. And we could probably have 5 more episodes of that, 2 hours long each, talking about different stories they haven't talked about.
And I do think a big portion of the reason they want to reboot is they have acquired a lot more since when they started. Like the X-Men, I love the X-Men, so maybe I'm being biased, but the X-Men is a giant piece of Marvel.
100%.
For a large people my age, it was all we had for the longest time. I grew up on the X-Men. I knew all the X-Men before I knew the Avengers. So I think, and there's absolutely no way for them to bring the X-Men in at all. Like they have no way of doing it. You can have cameos in Secret Wars, but people don't want cameos with the X-Men. We want characters we know are going to exist outside this movie. We don't. And I think the cameos, because they've already announced cameos for Secret Wars. They've already said some actors, so we're going to get those. But we want to see those storylines be brought out. We want to see, like the whole storyline, like the whole comic run is just so about the X-Men being viewed as like different and hated on by the public. The way people approach mutants compared to like the Avengers, who are virtually the same thing without the label on them, is huge in Marvel. It's like a not just for Marvel comics, but for like all the social stuff that it represents. Even when the time it was written to now, it's so big for Marvel because like superhero movies are always political. They just are. That's what they're based in. So I think like they don't really have any way of implementing such a giant piece of, I guess, Marvel property, Marvel culture, that without a hard reset. And I think for things like the X-Men, it'll be really, really cool. But you can't make that really, really cool for the X-Men and have it take away from your Avengers. You need to be able to do both. And I do trust the Russo brothers. And the beginning of the MCU is, to me, the golden era. Like those first 10, 15 movies, those first 10 years leading up to Infinity War are awesome. They do such a good job at building towards Infinity War, building towards Endgame, which is why I'm a little concerned from Doomsday. We saw the Infinity Stones, I don't know if this is right, but 8 years before Infinity War. We see little clips of Thanos getting ready. That whole thing in Age of Ultron where he grabs a glove out of the vault, like, fine, I'll do it myself. Like, we see so much build up into 4 years, Fantastic Four. We see so much build up into this huge event, whereas Doomsday, we still don't really know what's going on. Like, we don't really know what's going on yet.
I feel like what I'm kind of expecting out of it is I kind of expect Doom to have the presence of a character like Thanos, where he is like this huge menacing character, but his integration to be more like how we saw Age of Ultron, where it's like a single movie, it relates to all the characters personally in some way and interferes with them, but his introduction is going to be much more abrupt like that somehow.
It's also called Doomsday. He's probably going to have the most screen time of that entire movie, and I think he very much should.
Well, and that's how Infinity War is, though. One would argue that Infinity War is a Thanos movie.
Yeah, and it makes it, which I think it's Infinity War. I think is the best Marvel movie. I think Infinity War is perfect almost.
It's still number 1 on my list.
Like it is from every, I don't know, we're not talking about it, it's every aspect of that movie is perfect from the opening to the end. Every second of it is great.
Yeah,
and
there's
I do think
that slow moment in the movie.
I think Doom, and I think what makes it cool is you're so curious about this character of Thanos. Who is he? I know what he's in the comics, but what is he here? Like I want to see it. I want to see it. And then you get such a large part of it that could be good for Doomsday because like I know I'm very, very, I'm just curious. I just want to know, like, how are they going to do this? How's it going to work? How is he going to get there? And if they do it right, it can be perfect. But if they do it wrong, it's a ginormous flop for Marvel.
I don't know.
Because I think really all they're hinging on is that movie. You know, like they're building towards Kang, and Kang didn't work. If Doomsday doesn't work, I don't really know what they will do. What they can do after that. You know.
Well, I'm just excited for Galactus coming back, and Mephisto's on the table.
He's definitely not dead.
Yeah, when I think that was probably what I was most pleased with is that they didn't kill him. You know, like they're totally setting themselves up. You know, maybe for the second Fantastic Four movie to revisit it, or maybe the third one. You know, maybe take a one movie gap. But I'm just very happy that they didn't kill him because I'm sure this is what's going to happen, or this is at least my prediction. He's going to be gone, right, for whatever period of time, and he's going to come back. You know, this version of Galactus is relatively small compared to, like, what's in the comics, right? I
was kind of surprised he had a ship.
He's literally supposed to, like, swallow Earth whole. Like
the ship
Earth
looked different.
I'm a little confused.
It didn't look like the ship that I was in.
Was he in the planet, and his ship drove out of the planet?
Like his ship was going through it, like breaking it up.
Okay.
Like that's how it was. Like that's what all the lava and stuff was, like funneling into him.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Like that's why he was like hooked up.
I didn't pick up on that. I didn't really understand the lava. I understand that. Okay, dude, that's cool. I get that.
I would have to assume that ILM helped with some of the VFX, but that lava was so Mustafar lava. Like it was like the explosions were like very clearly like the volcano explosions like just put over, and it was so cool. It was literally Mustafar when they went there.
I like that they didn't kill Galactus also because it doesn't really make sense. I've never understood the because in the comics Galactus is a Fantastic Four villain. I just never understood that in terms of like a real approach because how and I get that they have to outsmart him. That's the whole point. Is you can't beat him, so they have to work around him because they're smart. But like they would not beat him. They just can't. What are the four of them gonna like? When they're fighting him in the city, they're not actually doing anything to him. Like he is fine. Sue has that moment where she's all going as powerful as she can and it kills her, and he's not. He fights back. Like she gets him and then he kind of like stands up at one point and starts getting to the ground, and then the thing breaks the buildings down and then he falls a little more. But it's not like she was kicking his butt. Like 2 more seconds and he probably would have stomped on her. You know.
Yeah.
So I do like that there wasn't some cheesy little they do end up killing him for some reason. They got him far away.
To bring it back to the animated thing, I'm just gonna do it one more time because I was binging the show. That's how he is in the show. Like he shows up and then they fend him off for a little bit, and he comes back 10 episodes later. And the end of that season 1, which I haven't gotten through season 1 yet, but the end of season 1 is called Doomsday. Like,
oh really?
I'm so hyped to like watch through because I feel like a lot of it's gonna be playing into the next movie.
Is Doctor Doom in that show?
Yes, I'm currently on like a 3-episode arc that's like just about him and his backstory and all that. And like I said, it's where he like captures Invisible Woman. So it's like it's pretty cool. I think and the suits are pretty much exactly like this movie.
I remember like 10 years ago when everyone wanted Doctor Doom to come from what's that place that they drop in Age of Ultron? I'm blanking on the name.
Sokovia.
Yeah.
Sokovia, yeah. I remember the early predictions for Doom was he would come from Sokovia. This is like way before.
You got to go check
just
out
it
our
made sense, you know?
prediction episode for Fantastic Four because Brendan talked about that. And he had a cool theory.
Oh yeah.
He did have a cool
theory. It definitely worked at the time. Like, you know, it made sense.
Dude, my predictions were so close. Like the whole her going to like take the baby and stuff and being like the angel kind of message. Like clearly that was like in the trailers, except for her taking like the baby directly.
Mm-hmm.
But like, the only thing that I think didn't happen was the team breaking up and then getting back together, which I feel like now having seen the movie that would have been too.
Yeah, I'm so over that as a trope.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like that would have been lame because this is 4 years into it. Like I don't feel like they would be having like a moment like that. It's cool to see them going through something like this, and then like still being strong. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I stopped watching trailers. There's that trailer that came out. I don't know when, but it's the trailer where it's about the trailer is the clip I saw is the press conference when the guy's like, "So how'd you beat Galactus?" And then he's like, "Well, actually, we didn't." I saw like a clip of that. I was like, "Brother, they're showing too much," and I stopped watching trailers, so I didn't see that clip of her with the baby at all. Which I thought was good. I liked it. I like not watching trailers. I think it leaves a little more to be enjoyed.
Yeah. Absolutely,
dude. Galactus's scan was totally Eve from WALL-E. Like
I love
like the scan.
I thought it was so sick.
I thought it was really cool.
The sound design in this movie is amazing. I will say, it's the same as the special effects where it's stylized to this movie, but the sound design is amazing. And in Herbie, like you said earlier, I think he's practical for most of the movie, like most of the movie. But he was just so cool, and he has like a little R2D2 spot on the ship. That like plugs into the ship like and like charges, dude. And also the one part where I started to question the movie, I didn't question the movie the whole way through, which I love because that's when I start having my problems with movies, is when I feel like I'm taken out of it. But they brought back Mole Man, and I was like, oh, this seems cheesy. You know what I mean? Like that scene of him first going into the building, I was like, I hope they do this right. But the second they just were like, oh, this is how he's going to move the people, I was like, that makes sense. That's like, now that's done. And then he does that line where he's like, wipe your feet before you come in. Oh, I'm just kidding. It's all dirt. You know what I mean? Like, that line was super funny, dude. It was so good. Oh, dude, here's my best note from the movie. I don't know if you could see it, but it just says Doom. Just all marked out. That was my reaction.
Well, guys, if it wasn't 11:30, I would say we'd talk about this for another 3 hours. But I also do think, we eventually going to talk about this once it pops up in the Sacred Rewatch. I don't know when it will. I'm assuming it'll be a year from now at least. But are you guys planning on seeing this the second time? I know we just watched it, but
I want to. This is the movie this summer that I would go and see again. I liked it more than Superman, and I will say that.
Dude,
and I liked Superman. I liked Superman. I will say that, but like this is my kind. Like I wanted this kind of campy that this movie had in that Superman. True. Watching Superman, I understand why they didn't do that. You have to relate to like modern people with that Superman. But this movie had the camp, and I love the camp. This literally took the group activity that I loved from Guardians Volume 2 and the like old school classiness of First Avenger. And that's like this has to be in my top 3 somewhere among those 2 movies.
Like I said earlier, it definitely felt like a comic book. Like it felt like every little scene, every punch thrown, every little stretch, every line that little the TV announcer would say was so obvious, so comic book kind of, I guess, vibes. Like it really did feel like you're reading a book of a comic, and I thought it was great because it was the first time that I think an MCU movies really felt like that. Like this, and I feel like they just knew when to cut stuff. Movie.
Like they knew when to like step away from stuff. Like in Superman, like they're having like constant battles with side things like throughout the movie, which is cool for that world. It establishes that stuff's going on all the time. In this movie, they explain like they fight other people in the beginning of the movie, but then in the middle of the movie, it lets you focus on what's actually happening. It doesn't try
really
to pull you away from the story.
Successful this Fantastic Four is like they don't.
Yeah.
Like they've saved the world a couple times, and everyone in the world kind of trusts them and likes them. Like they were able to get every country in the world to come together to build those things. Like they didn't have side villains anymore. Like they were much more. There's a line that I laughed at. It was someone said something. I can't remember what it was, but it was someone going against Reed and it was when that guy's getting arrested. He's like, "Curse you, Reed Richards, and your constant quest for progress." And I laughed. I was the only one around me who laughed. I thought that line was so funny.
That's good. Dude, the writing's just so good.
What I will say, not to compare it too much to Superman. Superman has ruined flying for me in any superhero movie that wasn't Superman. I thought the flying in that movie was so perfect. Like every time
it was mostly filmed.
Like, I know. I saw the clip of that. That is awesome. Like,
great.
Have you seen the clip of that, Ethan? Them filming the flying for Superman.
Yes, I did. That was very cool.
It's like either the volume or projecting it.
Every time Johnny was flying, I was like, "This is lame." But it was so.
I love the stylization of VFX.
I love the suit, like the space suit he had. They could also go like, why he could fly. I did. Reed did say it. He says you could. When he said he could when you flame on, so that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
That's my last remark, Ethan.
No worries. Well, guys, this has been a truly fantastic conversation. I'm going to be on this high for a while. To be honest, I'm sure Brody's probably going to feel the same way. I feel very fulfilled right now.
Yep.
But yeah, I encourage you to watch again, Brody. I'm sure you will. I'd love to get Brendan Andreas on here too, maybe for another recap episode in a few weeks, just to fill some time before we eventually do a deep analysis of what this means in a year from now. It'll basically be our last project we watch before Doomsday. So yeah. Thanks for being on, guys. That's going to do it for this immediate reaction of the Sacred Rewatch Illuminati Takeover. Whether you're hyped, hesitant, or already rewriting some of the casting for the future Fantastic Four, we appreciate you guys being here. New Sacred Rewatch episodes are dropping every week as we continue our rewatch of the entire MCU, one project at a time, all leading up to Avengers Doomsday. So if you're not caught up, now is the time to jump in. Until next time, guys. See you guys real soon. Fours up.
Bye, everybody.
Fours waving out.